Welcome to another Bandology interview. Bandology is a Canadian nonprofit dedicated to more music for more kids via education, collaboration, and community.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Bandology's What's Your Forte podcast. My name is Sandy Wright, the education manager, and I have the amazing pleasure of interviewing today Cynthia Johnston Turner, the Dean of Music at Laurier, which is my alma mater twice over. So it's very exciting to be able to talk to you today. So could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, awesome. What do you want to know? What do you want to know, Sandy? I got like I've lived a while, so what do you want to know?
Tell me a little bit about where you went to school, what you've done, how you ended up at Laurier, that kind of stuff.
Okay, well, I'm Canadian, but last 20 years of my career has been in the United States, so I'm a dual citizen. So I might go backwards. So Dean at Laurier, this is my second year of music, and before that, I was 7 years as director of bands at the University of Georgia. And depending on what you count, there are up to 9 bands at the University of Georgia. So it was an incredible musical experience, but also a leadership experience because, I was coordinating a lot of stuff, including the 450-piece Red Coat Marching Band. I didn't do the Red Coat Marching Band, but anytime I got in front of them, it was extremely fun. I have a very fond memory and actually a picture in my office of conducting the national anthem with the 450-piece Red Coat Band on the field, coordinating in front of 95,000 fans, coordinating an F-16, whatever fighter jet going over, like out of control, amazing. And don't get me going on college sports in the United States, but it's another world. And before that, I was 10 years as director of wind ensembles at Cornell University, the youngest Ivy. Before that, I was at the University of Rochester doing the wind ensemble there because I was doing my doctorate, my D.M.A. in conducting at the Eastman School. And the University of Rochester actually has a separate music department, which is odd, but there you go. And I was there for 3 years. And then before that, I was at University of Victoria getting my master's in conducting music education and leadership. My main advisor there was Jerry King. Go Jerry King. He's retired now at Vic. And then I was 10 years as a high school music educator, head of music at Parkside High School, which has since been torn down in Dundas, Ontario. I did my bachelor's of music performance and education at Queen's. And then I went for a year in Switzerland and taught choral music and computers while I was getting my French literature credentials. So there you go. That's my career in education in a wee nutshell.
That is an amazing diversity of places and things that you've been able to do. That's super cool. I especially like I was just in Switzerland for a year doing choral music. It's fine. I was just
whatever. It was fun memories of that.
No, that's amazing. But you're working at Laurier right now, and I'm obviously a little bit of an alumni, so I'm a little bit biased. So I just want to know for you, for the last couple of years, what's been the best part of working at Laurier for you?
The people, hands down. This has been a major transition in my career. I never saw myself in this kind of leadership position. I've taken the word administration out of my lexicon and replaced it with leadership, and I'm trying to get everybody that talks about being in leadership in higher ed or in any place to remove this concept of admin. That's actually quite a smaller part of the job. It's a lot of vision and taking the school in a direction that I think it needs to go in the 21st century. There I go. I just said 21st century as if we're not already more than a generation in. We need to stop talking. We need to stop talking about it and get going. But anyway, the people here are incredible. And there's just the people around me so that, my left hand, right hand people and people on the quote unquote 5th floor who are the staff who support the students and faculty in incredible ways. But the students here are amazing, as you know, Sandy, and faculty here are willing to change and do new things. And that's unusual, I will say, for music in higher ed, based on my experience. There's an old joke. How many faculty members does it take to change a light bulb? Change. change. You said anything about change. So that was attractive to me, that there was already innovative and forward-facing, future-facing programs here. And so a group and a team that was willing to go further. And then the other deans here are smart and funny and visionary and great to work with. And I'm meeting other faculty and other departments and schools, and it's the people, hands down, the best
definitely.
part. Yeah,
that's something that was definitely important when I was there, and it was super cool to sort of be able to like find myself in a place where it was so vibrant and so like thinking forward. But we're gonna sort of think back to the beginning of your sort of time and tell us a little bit about like the first time you picked up an instrument. What was that sort of like first thing that got you doing music?
Oh, wow. Well, that was at Westmount Public School in Peterborough. And I should go back farther than that. First time I picked up a quote unquote band instrument was there, because that's when I started to play the clarinet. And my teacher was Greg Brandt, who just got me so excited about the clarinet. But yeah, I was about 9 years old. I'm the first one in my family to go to college, and we did not come from a place of means. And I really wanted a piano. All the rest of my brother and sister were into snowmobiles, and like I was into horses and music. And so I begged my parents to get me a piano, and we couldn't afford it. So they got me this sort of, I think it was like maybe a 2-octave keyboard back in the day, which was an electronic or digital keyboard, and you could not separate me from that thing. So I would improvise, and I asked for music books, and neither of my parents were musicians, so they were, couldn't get me private lessons, and they were sort of grasping in the dark for what to do. And then I did ukulele in public school, and I was all over that. And then finally the clarinet, and that was that. The love affair began.
That's amazing. Ukulele, I feel, is like the bread and butter of like, here's an instrument that's like very starter, but you can do a million things with it when you get going. But I'm also biased.
Yeah. Why are you biased about the?
Towards the clarinet. The ukulele, because I teach ukulele, but I also play clarinet in middle school, so I'm very I'm biased towards that as a much better moment.
Well, yeah, and the other thing about it, I will say this too, is I spent some time guest conducting in Hawaii. Poor me, and did a conducting symposium there. It's pronounced ukulele in Hawaii, because it's a Hawaiian instrument, or at least one of the ukuleles is a Hawaiian instrument. So I did some ukulele playing there, and yeah, it's amazing how it's making a comeback too. Maybe it never went away, but it's amazing what you can do on that instrument.
No, I've definitely seen a resurgence since I was sort of like a teenager. It's really cool. Yeah. So you said you liked horses and music. Those are like the two things. So how did that go into, I'm going to do this not just for like fun, I'm going to do it for my job. I'm going to pursue this as like what I want to do.
That was in high school, when it's so funny. Yeah. Horses, music. And I was going to be a large animal vet. And then I took my first biology class in high school and went, well, this is hard. And then I did, I continued in biology, and it's just like, it just wasn't my thing. But meanwhile, I was finding my peeps actually in the band room at Crestwood High School. And that was not only a place where I was finding personal and musical success, but I was finding a sense of community. And it was just a place where we went, when we had a quote unquote spare. Remember that? We've got a spare. And we went and hung out in the music room, So then we did this side by side, and I had an instance where I was teaching a kid younger than I, and he had kind of an aha moment. And that was just, yes, this is great. And that was kind of it. So I'm going to be a music teacher.
That's amazing. Especially love that you got to do that with as a young person, having that opportunity to teach even younger person is such a valuable thing. It was so cool when I got to do stuff like that. Yeah. And I like that you highlighted it was a community place. The band room is a place where people can come and congregate and sort of be themselves historically. But I also find that we carry our community sort of with us throughout our lives. So what for you are sort of people who have been like great? You talked about your middle school teacher and your supervisor in grad school, but like, who are people that are like mentors to you that you've sort of like had major influences on you over the years?
One of my dearest friends is Robert Reynolds. He was a director of bands at University of Michigan for the majority of his career. And then he retired from Michigan and he got a 1-year gig that lasted 17 years at the University of Southern California. I mean, the guy is he's just a monster musician, but also one of the nicest people on the planet. So even though I was going to study with Bob and I ended up going to Eastman for a variety of reasons, where I studied with Don Hunsberger, he's pretty incredible as well. And then Mark Scatterday, but Bob's just become more and more influential in my life through my time at Cornell and Georgia, where I had him guest conduct, and we've just become very, very dear friends. But I consider him one of my main people, a really important mentor in my life.
That's awesome, especially the fact that like there's that relationship of like your colleagues and your friends, but also like those people have influences on you and they can mentor you even necessarily without them knowing you, is something that I've found, especially as I've moved into a workforce as time passes on and I'm sort of like out of school. You talked a little bit about getting to conduct with like F-16s flying overhead, but including that one, I was going to say F-150s, but that's like Ford trucks just going over.
There are a lot of those in Georgia.
I don't doubt it. There's a lot of them just outside my hometown. Including that one, but what are some career highlights for you, moments that stick out? You're like, wow, that was amazing. Well,
that was one. It's just never, as a high school kid from Peterborough, Ontario, that's just like what. Anytime I got to work with, which was every game, the Red Coat Marching Band was a highlight. I mean, they're just super. Musical highlights. Well, most recently I was guest conducting the Eastman Wind Ensemble, and we did the consortium premiere of Crackle by Augusta Reed Thomas. And that band nailed it. I mean, they just nailed it. And the band was prepared by a former student of mine at Ithaca College, Mason St. Pierre, who's doing his D.M.A. with Mark at Eastman. And so he prepared the group. And then so it was just kind of a neat, it was obviously a musical highlight, but also just sort of a kind of neat loop, circling back. It was quite beautiful. We did a performance of John Mackey's Places We Can No Longer Go at the University of Georgia 4 years ago now. That piece is he wrote in memory of his mom, who passed away from Alzheimer's, and he wrote it backwards he wrote it back in time. So the beginning of the piece is his mom in the throes of Alzheimer's, and then it ends quote unquote together and beautiful, and has all these. His mom was a flute player, and said had all these excerpts in it. But the reason it was a musical highlight, amongst other things, that it being an incredible piece, was Lindsay Kesselman was the soprano. And I've worked with a lot of incredible professional artists in my day, including Derek Roddy, who's a metal drummer. That's a fun story at Cornell. And she's just unbelievable to work with. She just taught me so much in our brief time together about artistry and artistic generosity. Just unbelievable. And the Wind Ensemble did a stunning dress rehearsal performance and a stunning performance. And so Mackie calls me 2 Clicks Turner, because from the dress rehearsal, which we recorded, to the performance, we were only ever off by 2 clicks on the metronome. So it was very easy for him to put together a quote unquote flawless presentation of the piece on his website. So very proud of that as well. Very proud of the students. And a couple of the students, well, actually more than a couple of the students, were dealing with either parents or grandparents who were in dementia or Alzheimer's. And so it was quite cathartic. Couldn't get through that piece without losing it. Just incredible. So there you go. There are
Yeah,
two.
no, that sounds like a really powerful experience. And the bonus of like being able to do it well and feel like really happy about that and get to work with amazing artists is such a cool sort of a moment in time. And
Yeah. It was beautiful. And two others off the top of my head, also with the Hudson Wind Ensemble, we went to play in Georgia prisons. And there were a couple of one was a medium security men's prison. The other was a maximum security women's prison. And in both cases, for two very different reasons, playing music that was not places we can no longer go or crackle. It was music that you might consider taking to a prison.
yeah.
There were some moments there with the audience that were unforgettable. And then on any given tour, I've taken ensembles. Hudson Wind Ensemble went to Panama, and for 7 tours to Costa Rica with the Cornell Wind Ensemble, where we donated instruments and worked with kids and educators there. Some unforgettable memories.
It's amazing, especially getting to go into places that are like don't have access to that stuff is always a cool part. It was one of the things that drew me when I was doing like a graduate degree in community music. That sort of chance to like get music to more people was always like something that was really important to me, even when I was mostly composing for my job. But on that note, obviously, big part of your career has been focused on music education, between being a teacher and then going on to do all the wonderful things you've done since, just being a high school teacher. So can you tell me, and the people that are listening, but can you tell me why music education is important to you, or why you think it's important?
Music education is going to save the world, Sandy.
Wow.
That's why. I mean, I really think that if we could get everybody in a choir, a band, or an orchestra, or any kind of ensemble, whether that be group drumming or group singing, and learning how to listen to each other musically and how to be together peacefully and making a beautiful thing, we would be all right. You know, even when we disagree politically, spiritually, whatever, or we think very differently about things, if we could come together and make music together, there's something about it. So that's the high level answer. You know, like I really do think music education could save the world if we get our act together. And you know, why is it important? Everybody loves music. Everybody has the right to make music. We haven't taught music that way. We have made it elitist and exclusionary. I mean, I can't think of any other subject in higher ed, maybe architecture, art to some extent, where you have to be pretty damn good before you actually get in. I'm looking across at the Lazaridis Business School, where you just need good grades and a passion for business. I'm not saying that we should change higher ed music to be teaching beginners, and what does that mean? But I certainly think we should be asking the question, and what that might mean for middle school, high school, wee kiddos, homeschooling, music in the womb. You know, I mean, lots of evidence that babies are at a certain point in the belly are learning. Right. And could we be teaching the music? So, yeah, I mean, I think it's one of the most important things on the planet.
I love the music can save the world, and sort of even in my own life, it's definitely reflected the power of like what you can do with it. Especially also my brain just thought of all those baby Mozart ads I'd see on kids channels when I was a kid, to little headphones on the stomach. It was fascinating. But that's a very tangential image. But no, I really love that thought of like thinking not just like, oh, what do we do at the sort of upper echelon of like the time you will spend learning music, but also how that tracks down all the way through to like from the beginning of our time, because it's such a varied experience depending on where you are and how much money your school has. And that's a huge impact on sort of like the time you get to spend doing this sort of amazing thing.
Yeah.
From that, do you have any advice for people who are younger in high school, or like just looking sort of to follow a career like yours into teaching, or even into like working in higher education? Any thoughts, the things that are important for them to think about?
Oh boy. Yeah. I mean, if you're thinking of quitting, quit on a good day. You know what I mean? Everything gets hard, and it's really easy to quit when you're having a bad day or a bad week, or the practice isn't going well, or teacher said something that ticked you off or whatever. But if you're thinking of quitting, wait till you're having an amazing day and then rethink it. So that's one bit of advice. Say yes to everything when you're first starting out. That's not a very copacetic mental health answer, but if you're wanting to make it as a professional musician, you need to say yes to just about every gig when you're starting out. Don't be a jerk. You know, at the end of the day, I said this at the commencement address here this year. At the end of the, there on this day, all across at least North America that I know of, and Switzerland, there are inspirational speeches to be given to a class of first-year students coming into higher education music. And somebody's going to be better than you. Somebody's going to practice more than you are. What's going to separate you from the person sitting beside you, right? And what it is that you're a nice person. You're easy to work with. You're professional. You're easy to get along with. And you're just not a jerk. It doesn't mean you have to, you still have to practice and get good. But just be a good person. Seriously. What else? Hang in there. It's going to get better.
I like the don't be a jerk advice. It's something that seems very simple, but having, spent time working with musicians over the time, the difference between me wanting to work with you again and me wanting to work with you, never work with you again, is very not dependent on whether or not you're good at your job. Exactly. It's very dependent on how well you are, easy it is to work with you, because it's very easy to be very hard to work with. And it's not worth it, because it doesn't bring any joy to you either, as far as I can tell. But which is one thing I liked about Laurier. Lots of great people to sort of brought that over. So that is the bulk of our sort of interview. Our last sort of thing is a rapid fire section we call the Fast Five. So they're sort of fun questions, get to know you kind of stuff. You think you can do it?
Yeah.
Cool. So Fast Five question number 1, favorite movie soundtrack?
Jaws. Two notes.
It's amazing. It's wild. What is an instrument, question 2, what is an instrument you wish you played?
Mandolin.
Ooh, that's a nice one. I knew a really good mandolin player in undergrad. Question 3, what's your hidden talent?
I don't know how hidden it is because I have a Facebook site, but I paint. Yeah, so I for a long time I guess since I've taken this job I haven't been able to do it, but I paint people's pets in acrylic. Wow. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's super cool. No one has ever said I paint people's pets as an answer to hidden talent. So
there you go. I'm also very, very good, unusually good, I'm told, at jigsaw puzzles.
See, that's also, I suck at jigsaw puzzles. I don't have the patience. I'll be fully honest. I get very bored. I'm like, is the pictures on the front? It's done. But that's it.
It's the journey. It's the journey.
It's the journey. It's not the destination. But that's not how my brain works when it comes to puzzles. Question 4, what's the favorite concert you've ever attended?
Well, it's got to be the concert. The first thing comes to mind is the concert that we did, John Mackey's Places We Can No Longer Go, with Lindsay Kesselman and the Hudson Wind Ensemble.
Nice. Is there another one where you were like a member of the audience and you were like watching instead of like participating?
Yeah, I went to see Sting and Paul Simon in Toronto.
My gosh.
Yeah, they were pretty great. And it was a girlfriend from high school who she had VIP tickets, so it was the whole shebang. It was a pretty extraordinary experience from start to finish.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
Man, that's a long concert. They got a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
It's a big one. Last question 5. What's the last TV show you binge watched, or like the last book you sort of really got into, depending on what your personal entertainment habits are?
Yeah, I just finished The Huntress. It's very good. And I'm reading Horse right now, which is blowing my mind. Binge watched Schitt's Creek.
Classic.
But there's the Cabinet of Curiosities is a new Netflix thing that I just can't seem to stop watching.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I need to watch all of Schitt's Creek. I've started it, but I have not finished it. And I feel culturally peer pressured to do it.
Also Canadian. But I saw the first episode and went, this is not for me. And somebody said, stick with it. And oh my gosh. Yeah. Super funny.
That's awesome. So thank you so much for speaking with us. I just want to give you this time. If you have any exciting plans or projects or things that are happening at Laurier that you want to tell the people.
Yeah, I mean, we're changing things up at Laurier Music, where we have announced and have our first pathway between Metalworks and Mississauga, which is a big recording studio there. Drake records there. Prince recorded there, Tina Turner, my goodness, everybody records there. And our third year music students can take their third year at Metalworks, either remotely or in person, and while they're getting their Bachelor of Music, they can get a diploma in audio and sound production. And so we have our first student who's gone there, and I just emailed her the other day and she emailed me back. She's having an amazing time. And then I talked with a student from Metalworks who's here, and he's having a great time too. Very different experiences, very different kinds of students, but very, very cool. And we are about to, can I say this publicly? We're about to announce something very exciting. Let me say this. It's something very, very, very much needed in educating music students for the future. And it's going to be offered here at Laurier in 2 parts. And we have exclusive partnership with some very important folks in the music industry. That's all I can tell you, because I can't tell you anymore because we haven't signed any papers. But I feel like this is something that I never learned any of this stuff when I went to any of my degrees, my Bachelor of Education, my performance degree, my master's degree, my D.M.A. I never learned any of this stuff, and I wish I had. That's a big hint.
No, that's very exciting. It's very enticing. Now I want to know. But yes, so thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us. Really appreciate it. It was so great to talk to you, and thank you for watching and listening. New episodes come out every Friday. Not anymore. This is the last episode of the season. So thank you for listening to this season of What's Your Forte. We'll probably have some sort of throwback episodes coming out over the next week to keep you enjoying some wonderful interviews with cool musicians and industry people. So thank you so much for listening. Thank you again for coming on, and have a great evening.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks, Sandy. Bye.
Thanks for joining us. If you like what you heard, you can learn more about our organization at bandology.ca, which features information about music education, advocacy and research, and our Play a Gig and Bandcamp programs. Follow us on social media for more videos, performance, and interviews on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube.